Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. And we'll be talking about a topic, training needs, analysis, and metrics. Training needs, analysis, and metrics. And our facilitator tonight is not a first timer, he's probably a second or third timer on this prestigious platform, Fola Vincent. And I'd like to read about him just briefly, just for the benefit of some of us who may not know him or may just be meeting him for the first time. Fola Vincent is a seasoned HR professional, learning and development specialist, is a speaker and leadership coach with a diverse industry background spanning over 10 years, more than a decade. He has a track record of successfully implementing creative HR strategies, learning and development initiatives that foster business growth, promote employee engagement, and cultivate a positive organizational culture. Fola is a skilled HR consultant with a track record also of designing and executing HR tactical programs and initiatives that enabled organizations to achieve their business goals and tackle complicated people and organizational problems. He's a highly respected, I can confirm that, as a reliable HR advisor by top executive as he offers expert guidance on HR matters that affect the company's bottom line. Fola is a certified member of the CHIHRM and a practitioner member of the Institute of Business Psychology. He holds a Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry Education, Master's in Education in Counseling Psychology, and an MBA in Business Innovation, Growth, and Sustainability. He is a PhD scholar in personnel psychology at the prestigious University of Ibadan. Fola currently manages the faculty management at FCMB. He's the team lead of the faculty at FCMB. I'm excited, delighted, elated to present to us once again, Fola Vincent. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you so much, Adeosun, and once again, thank you for what you are doing in the HR community. I want to use this medium to welcome everyone to another edition of, HR mentorship program. And today, like Adeosun rightly said, we'll be looking at training, need analysis, and metric, because we have identified that these are the major core area that we may actually struggle with. It doesn't matter your years of experience in the HR space, you can still struggle with how to identify necessary training needs for your staff and even for the whole organization. So let's quickly look at the training objectives for today. You should be able to, gain foundational knowledge in recognizing and assessing skills gap within an organization. I'm going to be providing an overview of aligning training initiative with organizational goals and priorities. We look at fundamental training metrics for participants to grasp their importance. Then we also provide a brief overview of the concept of return on investment in training. Then we are going to present key principles of designing cost-efficient and impactful training programs. So let's look at the module 1, Introduction to Training Needs Analysis. We are not new to this methodology in training, and the one we refer to as the ADIS. I want to believe that we are not really new to that. So what does ADI actually talk about? ADI helps us to understand, number one, from the word A, from the first one A, you assess the need. Then we move into the double D, you design and develop training. Then we move into I, whereby you implement training or deliver training. Then we move to the E, whereby we evaluate training. So today we are looking at the first one and also try to introduce you to the last one. We are not doing anything in between the two, which is design and develop or implement training. And the reason is because those two areas may not really be a challenge to you. It can be outsourced and, but what of the assessing needs and also evaluating or determining the cost effectiveness of training. These are the major two areas you're going to be struggling with. And I'm going to create a background to all of this. Number one, your top CEO or your top management and executives, they want to ask you this most important question. why should we invest in training? Some organizations don't really say the reason why they should put so much money in training. As a matter of fact, they look at you as the cost center of the organization. And the truth of the matter is that we are not. It looks like that, but we have a way of justifying our training, and we have a way of determining the ROI. And that is why we are focusing on these two, the assessing needs and also the last one, which we may be struggling with. So let's quickly look at this. What is TNA? TNA simply means training need analysis. According to STREAM, a training needs analysis or assessment identifies individual current level of competence, skill, or knowledge in one or more areas and compares them to the competency level to the required competency standard established for their positions or other position within the organization. So when you have employees, one thing that comes to your mind is, do they have the necessary competency, skill, and knowledge for them to deliver, their task? And it's a major questions for everyone. As a matter of fact, during recruitment, you are presented with the need for you to do job analysis, job description, and also specification of the job. So the most important thing is that you want to know everyone that come into the organization. You want to actually know, do they have the necessary skills, competency, and knowledge in line with the competency framework of the organization? Although we are not doing competency framework today, in one of the mentorship program, it has been discussed competency framework. So the question is, do employees in your organization have the necessary skills that is in line with the competency framework of your organization? So let's look at AIHR define TNA as is a process to identify the gap between the actual and the desired knowledge, skills, and abilities in a job. So the focus is on needs, not just desire. And when I say need, you need to pay attention to that. In our elementary economics, we try to understand the difference between the need and the want. So when it comes to the issue of need, it is something that organization really need in an employee for them to deliver or to get a particular job, done. So we also talk about a form of gap analysis. So we have to ask the question, the staff we have now, what is their current skills, knowledge, and competencies level? And what is our desired or the actual competencies or knowledge and skill of the organization? So whether you like it or not, we always have this kind of problem within the organization. Now, there is a question I want to ask you, but before I go into that question, I want to set a particular background to training versus development. Training is different from development, okay? And how are they different? Or let me say, how is one different from the other? Let's quickly look at it. When it comes to training, we are looking at the way we enhance the capability of employee to perform his or her current job. And the focus is on the current job. Let's quickly look at the development. Development enhances the capabilities of an employee to be ready to perform possible future jobs. The focus is on the future. And one thing we have discovered in most organizations is that they majorly focus on the present job, on the current skills, without taking note of the future skills required for the organization. And despite the fact that they usually do probably workforce planning, job analysis, most of the time they actually train their employees for the now and not really for the future. So we have to understand that major difference, unique difference. Then another area you need to also understand major difference. The reason, don't worry, I will tell you the reason why I'm laying this kind of foundation. So we have the performance versus productivity. What is the meaning of performance? Performance focuses on the quality of results and measures how well resources are used to reach intended aims and objectives. So for example, you have probably 20 million budget for your training. So the question is, how have you used 20 million, for you to achieve the training aims and objectives. That is the major performance. Then for your staff, you can determine performance of your staff by looking at the staff we have now. How have we used them to achieve specific organizational goals or objective? So there is a major reason why you hire a particular staff. And that is why at the end of probably half of the year or at the end of the year, we do performance appraisal, depending how many times you do it in your organization, probably twice in a year. So you actually want to gauge. We have set this goal for this staff, and we want to gauge whether this staff is achieving that same goal. So what we set and where we are, that's performance. So then productivity focuses on the quantity of results and measures how much a business get out of its resources like money, time, and labor. So productivity look at the ROI. So it is not about achieving the goals or achieving the objectives. After you have achieved that goal, what did we get out of it? Do you understand me now? So what did we actually get? So in most organizations, let me quickly tell you this. Training does not solve the majority of organizational or individual problems. And that is exactly what I want you to know. Because when we look at the issue of performance and productivity, you will discover that there is going to be organizational issues or the issue of ROI, the organizational success. What is success to them? Okay, and what is success to an individual? And that is why we say that in most of the time, training in itself does not really solve organizational and individual problem. So the idea that training can solve all productivity problems can lead an organization to failure. The major obstacle facing learning professionals is educating leadership on, number one, the difference between training issues and performance issues. The importance of a thorough needs analysis to identify whether a problem is a performance or training issue. And number three, the value of using the result of the needs analysis to determine the best and most effective solution. So let this be at the back of your mind. Every problem in an organization will not be solved with training. So you need to know when it is going to be training issue or is going to be other organizational issue. So you need to know when training becomes a solution, or probably you need to look elsewhere for a solution to solve some of these organization problem. And I'm going to give you an example. Suddenly you discover that a particular staff is performing well and, performing very well. And at the time, the guy actually went for a conference and mingled with his friends, and discovered that, he is doing so much, but little salary, or probably little reward, or lack of recognitions. So by the time that staff came back to the organization, suddenly we discovered that it was no longer performing. So what are you going to do with that? Are you going to put the staff on training, or you are going to look at other issues within the organization? For example, it could be motivation issues, it could be salary issue, it could be, reward issue, and it could be recognition issue. So you need to know when something is training issue and when something is beyond, training. So that is the point I'm trying to drive at. So let's quickly move ahead. So let's look at it. Here is how to determine if you need a training needs analysis or if you don't. So let's quickly look at it. Number one, identify the desired situation. This situation we are now, and this is the ideal situation that we want to achieve. So every organization at the beginning of the year, they have an ideal situation or a desired situation, something they want their employees to get on, the tasks they wanted to perform, the kind of skills they want them to have. As we speak right now, most organizations have started performing their strategy session. I just finished mine today. I finished mine today, and we already have this kind of blueprint of how we want training to go next year. we have an ideal thing for our employees. We want them to do X, Y, and Z. So there's a desired situation. Even all the board, probably the top management, the executives, they already have what they think is the desired task, objectives, goals they really want to achieve. And the second one there is identify the actual situation. So what do we have now? What we have now, is it enough for us to get what we want to get in the future or by next year? And I'm going to give you an example. For example, if today your organization has been able to have a profit of probably 40 million, and you have done your ISS, that is internal satisfaction survey for your training, or you have done your training in part, and you discover that so X, Y, and Z skills was pivoted for you to achieve such a profit. So you have thought, oh wow, this training really helped us to achieve this profit. Okay, by next year we are going to do this X, Y, and Z training. Okay, so what you need to do now under the identify the actual situation is that do your staff have the necessary skills, knowledge, and competencies to achieve the goal you want to set next year? Probably you want to move from 40 million to, let's say, 200 million. Did you have the staff, the number of staff? Did you have the capacity? And that is why, although it's outside the scope of today's training that we're talking about, and that is why we have to do your competency framework, which we have already discussed during the mentorship program. If you have not part of the training, kindly go to the YouTube and look into that competency framework, because every organization have their competency framework, they have their job analysis, they understand the kind of skills they need to have for them to achieve a particular goal. So you have to identify what is the ideal skills, knowledge, and competencies, and what do you currently have in your organization. I'm going to cite an example again. There is one SME company, their focus next year is they want to roll out digital product next year. And what they are doing currently now is to look at the staff that have digital skills within the organization. So they sent out survey. They just want to identify, do we actually have staff that can drive digital product and services? So if you don't have them, it's two ways. Whether you look internally to determine which of those, who among the staff you can train that will deliver the organizational objectives and goals, or are you going to hire externally? So you need to understand the way it works. Then at the end of the day, there's going to be a gap analysis which you're going to come up with. So if the gap is caused by lack of knowledge, skills, and abilities, automatically you are going to be doing your training needs analysis. So let me ask you this question as you are as you're looking at me now or listening to me now. Let me ask you this question. Does the problem in your organization now require training, or does it require other things? So write it down. Does the problem we are facing in my organization now requires training, or does it require other intervention? So you need to know when training is the answer to a particular problem and when training is not an answer to a particular problem. So that is the point I'm trying to drive at by telling you all of this. So I talked about performance issues just to elaborate the question I just asked you, that not all issues within the organization are training issues. So let's look at some kind of performance issues. For example, number one, they know how to do the task, but don't realize that they are doing it incorrectly. So you have employees that have the technical how of doing a particular task, but they are not doing it correctly. So what do you need? Do you need to train them? So the correct thing you need to do is to give them a feedback. Hello, we know that you have the correct skills, capability to deliver this training. As a matter of fact, you understand the job, but you are not doing it correctly. So you can provide a feedback or a coaching, just give them a feedback. Number two, look at it. They said they know how to do it, but repeatedly forget when to do it or forget some of the steps in the process. So probably they are not paying attention to to details. They're just messing things up for you. So you can do a job aid or automated reminder. So you could create a kind of, what do we call it now? A chat within the organization, or you create, I think people are doing it now because it's a new trend in organization, and that is about automated reminder. It's another area of the feedback. So you could create it and it will help them. Okay, look at this one. The process is too difficult or cumbersome. Will training solve such a problem? No, all you need to do is find a way to simplify the process. Then it solves all of the problem. Then look at this one. The process or task bring little to no value. What do? Do you train? No, eliminate the task. So there are some tasks you need to eliminate, and because training will not really solve that problem. And the last one, there is a better way of doing it. Probably you discover that there's a better way of doing a particular task, or getting a particular job done, or achieving a particular goal. All you need to do is ask, listen, and improve the process. So most of the time we ask this question, but we have trained them and nothing seems to happen. We're not getting result. It's simply because you have not been able to separate training issues from performance issues. And that is why training need is very, very important. Okay, having said all of this, let's quickly move to the next one. Why training needs analysis? Number one, you need it because it will help you to align training with the business goals. Number two, it helps you decide what specific training each employee needs. Number three, it helps you to differentiate between the need for training and other organizational issues. Number four, it helps you to prioritize his training. Number five, it helps you to plan targeted training. We call it the tactical training solutions, and determining who gets trained. When you look at my profile, I mentioned something targeted or tactical training solutions. Not everybody will be part of tactical training solutions. Okay, probably you need to identify your top performance, or the issue of the 80 to 20%, whereby the 80% are the average performers, the top performers are the 20%. You have to identify this, who and who we go for a tactical training solutions. Then number 6, uncovering skills and performance gaps earlier on. The earlier you determine performance gaps, the better it is. And that is why if you are an L&D, or probably, I don't know how your organization is structured, talent management and L&D should not be too far away from each other. And any major data from the performance management must be released to an L&D professionals, because it's as a way of helping training needs analysis. Now, I'm trying to remind you this because we are moving into something very important. So let's look at the 3 levels of training need analysis. So we want to look at how you can carry out your training analysis, but we have to look at the three levels of training analysis. Number 1, we have the organizational level. We have the operational, or the one we actually refers to as task level. Then we have the individual or person-centered level. So what do you mean by organizational level? It talks about the skills and knowledge gaps and training needs within an organization. And this is where your competency framework comes in for every organization. Okay, or probably you have to go and look at your job analysis. These are the work you have done for you to determine the kind of staff that come into your organization. So the reason why you hire the staff is for a purpose, and it is tied to the organization. Okay, the second one is about the task or operational level. This one determines the skills, knowledge, and ability required to carry out tasks that are part of a particular role. And this one could be a behavioral technical skills, or probably the behavioral skills or technical skills that has to do with the operational level. Then the next one is individual or person level. This one look at we analyze the individual skills, knowledge, and ability deficiency, and the training needs. So let's quickly look at each of these levels and break them down into a way you can actually understand it. So let's look at organizational level. So this one says, you can ask these questions. What are the training needs of the organization? What training will support the organization's strategy? For example, probably the internal growth strategy, growth from new products or new markets will be supported by training. So probably you want to expand your market's niche, or you want to expand your product. It depends. So you want to develop an internal growth strategy. So what training should you give? You could give something like creative thinking or new product development training, understanding and evaluating potential in your market, technical competencies in jobs. These are some of the things you can do. Let's look at another one example. What are the training needs for all the strategies? It could be low-cost leadership, focused niche concentration, external growth such as mergers and acquisition, or downsizing and defestation. So the reason why I'm telling you this is that, from the organizational goal, you could analyze organizational at the level of the organizational training analysis you're going to deploy for your organization. So it depends on the strategic focus of your organization, probably for the year or for 2 years or for 3 years. And most of the time when they communicate this kind of needs to you, you need to sit down with them and look at the staff you currently have. Do they have the necessary skills to achieve such organizational goal, or do you have to train them to achieve such organization goals? So it's very important. Then the second one is about the operational analysis. We have to do job and task analysis. And the question is, what are the training needs of each job in the organization? So this one is separate because depending on the structure of your organization, in terms of functions, departments, it depends on how you structure your organization. But one thing is very important is that at this level, you have to understand that the kind of training needs require of accounting session or accounting department will be different from the one required by operation department or from HR department or for L&D or the one required for marketing and sales. They're going to be very different because of the specialized tasks they perform. So you need to ask the question or look into the job descriptions, job analysis, what tasks and duties are performed by each job. For example, probably you do new hires already know how to perform the tasks, or will they have to be trained? So you could help identify the training needs, or you could move into the training priorities. What are the consequences of performing the task incorrectly? Let me put it to you. For example, what is the consequence of hiring sales team that do not know how to sell? There won't be profit. Okay. Or what are the consequences of hiring an accountant who does not really know how to use Excel or probably Power BI for analysis? You're going to have a lot of problem. So you have to know when to set training priorities. And there are 3 areas you need to look at. Number 1, the issue of the financial loss, then the issue of reputational damage, or probably the issue of legal issues that could result to legal issues. The high risk, you prioritize it, high risk, low risk, and medium risk. So all of this will help you to prioritize what training needs to be deployed immediately, especially if you need to come up with a tactical training solutions. The next one is, can the tasks be learned on the job or should it be taught off the job? Probably do job shadowing or job rotation or job mobility. So this one helps you to identify training methods to use. Are you going to use coaching or you're going to use mentoring? It depends on what you really want to make use of. Then the next level is the individual analysis. So this one asks the questions, what are the training needs of each individual employee in the organization? And that is why, in my former place of work, before I moved to where we are, we usually do 2 things, once every year and the other one every 5 years. One is the training plan, the one you refer to as the ITP, individual training plan, or just learning plan. It depends on how you use it. The old word is training, the new word is learning, depending on how you make use of it. Okay. So there is other one, we call it a individual developmental plan, IDP. So you need to know when to make use of ITP and when to make use of IDP. IDP look at what are the developmental activities or program or what are the training program for a particular staff in the next 3 or 5 years, depending on the goal of the organization. Some organization will tell you that in the next 5 years, we are going to diversify our business into S, Y, and Z. So you don't wait for the next 5 years before you start trading. As a matter of fact, you need to identify your top performance, do a work plan planning or succession planning that will help you to position some staff for the future. So you don't wait for the future before you start trading. You need to determine that now. Then you can do some kind of, you can look into their trading history. For example, in my place of organization as we speak now, we have already structured some kind of training programs. And we already know once you leave one training program, you are moving to another training program, and we structure it for the next 5 years. So you could look at the training history of that staff for you to determine the kind of training is that staff we need. Then another one, you could do stakeholder engagement. Stakeholder engagement simply means that probably you're going to be working with the managers, the HODs, the supervisor. You could create a kind of probably 1 month stakeholder engagement and talk to the supervisors, to the line managers, the HODs, to the top managers within the organization. And before you know what is happening, you are coming up with a training is for an individual. For example, another question is, do certain employees or group of employees have job performance that might be improved by training that is cost effective? For example, we encourage what we refer to as knowledge sharing within an organization. So you might not really train them, schedule them for training, whereby you train some certain staff and you motivate them, or you give them a task of, okay, go back to your team and do a knowledge sharing, and you follow it up. So you can embark on cost effectiveness training because it may not be like a major training. Then the next one is you can match training to organization strategic objective and team direction. Don't forget that is the major essence of training. Your training should find the way to be matched or to align to organization objectives and team direction. I was in one training, was it last week or 2 weeks ago in HRCI, they have this kind of training. And hello, are we together? So please mute your mic if you're listening to me so that we can get the best from this training. So they were saying that, apart from strategic objectives, goals, probably something you really want to achieve, there's a need for us to look at the way our training can reflect organizational value. Okay, so you tie training to organization goals, objective, and also to organization values. So that is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So let's quickly look at training needs analysis checklist. So I will run this one first so that we doesn't have to waste our time. Number one, you need to know what the organization is trying to accomplish. So ask yourself this question: what is my organization trying to accomplish? Number two, you need to know the history of training within the organization. And let me quickly say this because this week I discovered that most organizations, they don't value data, they don't value documentation, and they don't value record keeping. And this week, I also discovered that it's a major cost to organization, it's a major high risk. So let me ask you this question, and you can actually write it down. Do you have the training history of your organization, of your staff? Do you have it? I don't know how many staff you have. In my own organization, close to at least more than, let's say around probably 3,000 or 4,000 now, we have their training history. We have their training history. So do you have yours? Okay, please go and work on that. Oh, I just joined them, and I don't even since you have joined them, do you have their training history? It's very important. Then the next one is what needs will be addressed by the training. You need to identify those needs. You need to put it somewhere. And that is why TNA is very important. Any recent process or procedure changes, Did you just have you improved your SOP or some kind of policy? Is there a merger or acquisition that can affect your processes? You need to look at all of this. Then the next one is, what resources are available for training in terms of budget, in terms of technology, or internal faculties? It depends. What resources do you have available for your training? Then who needs to be trained? Who? The next one, who can serve as subject matter expert, probably within the organization or outside the organization? I won't lie to you. You will save a lot of costs if you can develop subject matter expert within the organization. Okay. The next one is, are any staff going to do the training? Another one is, which companies provide training materials, or which vendors you can actually make use of? The next one is, what are the knowledge, skills, and abilities? And last one is, review job descriptions and organizational chart. I won't lie to you. I don't know the last time you review your job descriptions or you do job analysis. And I am aware that probably every 5 years an HR audit should be done. Should be able to do HR audits and review your job analysis and even your organizational chart, especially if you have really grown. So you can't use just the one you have done probably 10 years ago or 5 years ago to determine what is happening now. Don't forget, we are in an agent environment. Things are seriously changing. So there is a need for you to do some kind of review, or if possible, come up with new one, okay? So another area we need to look at is the training objectives. So having looked at the 3 level of the need analysis, then we should be able to establish our training objective from the 3 level of this analysis. So what is the meaning of training objective? Training objectives actually talk about what employees will be able to do because of the training. Don't worry, we are going to look at this by the time we move ahead. So you are expected to ensure the training objective is specific, concrete, and measurable. For example, for a bank teller, don't forget, I work in the bank. So for a bank teller training program, you might want to train them to detect counterfeit currency. So how do you measure that training is successful? Here is a key metric. Identify counterfeit currency correctly 100% of the time. Wow, 100% so high, but it will enable you to save cost. Okay, so that is a training objective. It's a key metric. Then another one is, for example, for a bartender training program on underage consumption. You can look at check customers' age, refuse service, and report attempts at underage consumption correctly 100% of the time. If we are to be sales, people into sales, you could look at, okay, customer acquisition or customer retention. There's what we call the churn rate. You could look at the churn rate. For leaders, you could look at the turnover rate. Okay, after this training, we want the turnover rate to reduce, probably to as low as 5% or to as low as 4%. For example, for doctors, probably they usually make mistake that leads patient to death. Then you could do a training that will enable them to reduce those rates or make it zero. So you must be able to create training objectives, because this is what we're going to use to determine metrics. And by the time we get to how to work on metrics, I will actually tell you what you need to do. Now listen, at the beginning of training year, there is need for you to identify all training program and write all training objectives. Because if you don't do it, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to measure that training. Determining metrics will be so difficult. At the end of the day, you won't be able to determine whether the training is effective or is not effective. Now, write it down that it is very, very important for me to create a concrete, specific, and measurable training objective at the beginning of every training. If you cannot, or if you are unable to determine training objective, please do not go into that training. As a matter of fact, by the time you are developing training or you are implementing training, these objectives actually help anybody developing training or developing the content or looking at the curriculum or even implementing the training. Training objective is key, very, very important. And don't forget, it's part of your ISO document that you should have. What is the training objective for the year? ISO is going to ask you. So please, it is to you now, it might sound very simple when you hear the word training objectives, but in the actual practice, it can be a bit difficult. If you identify your training objectives, somebody like me, Fola, I can take that document and create a lot of program for your organization by leveraging on the objectives. I can create a lot of, and it's very, very easy for me to measure or determine the metrics for your training. Very easy for me. So this is very important. And how do you arrive at training objective? I've just told you these 3 levels of your need analysis will help you to arrive at objective. You have to look at organizational, at the organizational level, what are the skill knowledge required, and what is the goal at the operational level and at the individual level. If you do it very well, you've just discovered that having training objectives or determining metrics will be so easy for you, just like the way I'm speaking it or talking about it. Okay, so let's move. 4 steps to training in analysis. Number 1, define organizational goal. I've told you. Number 2, define relevant job behavior. Number 3, define required knowledge and skills. And finally, determine the training. So this is what I try to tell you. And let's look at a sample of a TNA for salesman. So pay attention here. If you want to screenshot, please do it. Screenshot, because I might not be able to use other example, but I'm using this example. So now you are managing a sales team, and for next year, your organization said or says, our goal for next year is to increase revenue from 20 million to 45 million, and customer acquisition and retention by 70%. Let's assume the customer you have now, probably they are 5,000 customers. So if you are going to increase it by 70%, what does that mean? Probably you are expecting probably 45,000 or probably 55,000. Then if you are going to retain them, that is out of the 75,000, you need to retain not less than 65,000. Let's put it that way. Is like a mountain for the sales team. So how do you, as an HRS professional or training expert, how do you support the sales team? This is what you do. Perform a training need analysis. Now you have the organization goal. The next thing you need to do is identify what are the behavior needed for all the sales team to achieve this goal. So I identify 7. There could be more you can identify, but I just identified 7 for you. Number 1, result-oriented mindset is a behavior. Customer-centric focus, proactive sales approach, effective communication, or let me say effective, okay, that should be a skill, but effective communication. Number 5, collaborative teamwork. Number 6, efficient use of resources. And number 7, business acumen. Okay. Yeah, business acumen. Good. Now we have identified the organizational goal, and now we have identified the behavior needed. So what's the next thing you need to do based on the document you have is to what are the required skills and knowledge? And we can get the required skills and knowledge from the behavior. So what are the skills, knowledge you need? Number 1, market knowledge. Okay. Number 2, product and service knowledge. Number 3, financial literacy. 4, networking. 5, financial literacy. Sorry, I'm repeating that twice. Apology. Number 6, strategic planning. 7, sales and negotiation skills. 8, creativity and negotiation. 9, customer management skills. If there is any other skills required, can you go to the comment section and type? Let me know. Probably I've missed some. As a matter of fact, you can start from behavior. I may not be like, I'm just facilitating this session anyway. Go and look at the behavior. You can go to the comment section. At least let's have some kind of engagement. Let me look at, I'm still going to look at it anyway. What are the behavior needed? What are the required skills and knowledge needed? And the final one is, what are the training required? Like I told you, once you do hard work under the organizational goal, behavior needed, the required skills and knowledge needed, in fact, the training will be very easy for you. In fact, you could sit down and develop as many training solutions as possible for this sales, for this marketing team or salesman team. Okay, for example, personally, I recommend, number 1, consultative selling training. Number 2, I recommend creativity and innovation training. Number 3, I recommend selling to achieve result. Number 4, I recommend customer relationship management training. Number 5, strategic planning training. 6, financial literacy training. 7, sales leadership training. 8, business intelligence training. Number 9, product service knowledge enhancement training. This is the practical way of doing training need analysis. Have you been doing it this way? I'm not sure, but this is just the summary. So how does it work in your organization? I don't really know how large or how small your organization. Very simple. Probably you could do it by department and you could do it by functions. Okay, by functions, by department. For me, in my own organization, we could go as far as by division level. Or you could say, okay, by functions and task level, depending on what they have identified, or depending on the problem they want to solve, or the goal they want to achieve. So let me give you a few seconds for you to look at it very well. If you want to take a snapshot, please take it. And if you are still dropping one or two things in the comment section, please do it. 10 seconds gone. Okay, 20 seconds gone. So thank you so much for performing such exercise. So now let's move into module 2. Now, whether you like it or not, you can see we have been able to do a training need analysis, and we have determined what the program should look like. And like I told you, I don't want to bother myself on design and development of training or implementation of training, because we can, once we have this document, we can outsource any other thing. If you have this document, you can send it to me as a consultant, and I will develop my training. This is like a business case. So simple business skills. Okay, the only thing that is not here now, okay, look at it, organizational goal is for me to come up with a objective. Okay, that's a goal objective. Okay, I think it's complete. This is just a pure business skills. It has ROI, something that's very important for the organization. It has some other tracking track or metrics. Yeah, this is cool. This is cool for me. This is so cool for me. So if I have this from my organization, I can come up with fantastic training program, and it will be so delivered. And in the next 3 or 6 months, we can come back for evaluation, and we know whether the training is working or probably it's not working. So measuring the impact of training. Now I want to move into the metric area, which is very important. So let's look at training metrics. You know, when we talk about training metrics, we are talking about the value of training to the organization. Anywhere you hear metrics, we are looking at some kind of value area, something we say, oh, this is a value to the organization. So employee training metrics serve many functions. Number 1, it evaluates the sources of a training program. Number 2, it measures training effectiveness of a program. Number 3, it helps us to make use of data points and insight to align the training to the organization goal. And finally, to evaluate different components of a training program. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, good. Good. So these are the reason why you need to determine training metrics. And don't worry, I will find a way to make it more practical, although it could be beyond the scope of this training. But in my explanation, I will find a way to ensure that it's a bit practical for you. Okay. So why should you use training metrics for training evaluation? Now, there is a place I'm going, like the reason why you need training metrics is because you want to do training evaluation. Number 1, for you to be able to measure financial performance. So you are able to link training metrics to financial performance metrics such as ROI, liquidity, profitability measures. Number 2, to track performance over time. So using the same metrics or KPI allow us to observe any noticeable improvement as a direct result of your training effort. You want to know if your training is working or is not working, and that is why you need training metrics. Number 3, you want to be able to benchmark training to competitors. So using consistent metrics allow you to compare your training program to competitors and measure whether you are underspending or overspending, or probably your training is not really making sense. Number four, you be able to communicate transparently to employee. So you are able to show employees the value of training and the value of the investment made in them. And not just to the employee, you are also doing this to your board. And don't forget, there are two key areas in HR that the board don't joke with, and that is performance management and also training. Training the training team of the organization, the L&D. They don't really joke with their report, because these are the two ways for you to know whether you are getting ROI for training, and probably the future talent are ready for the future work. These are the two ways for you to actually know that. So please permit me to stop my video sharing. I am using alternative light now. Don't worry. Okay, it may not be too bright. So I think it's okay like this. Okay, let's move. So according to AIHR, these are the major training metrics you need to watch out for. And you could take a snapshot, and I want to look at the way I can help you. At least let me see if I could explain like 3 or 4 out of them. And so let me just run them through. We have the training cost per employee, we have the training ROI, we have the operational efficiency, we have the learner engagement, we have the training experience satisfaction, we have the course enrollment data, we have the course completion rate, we have the learner drop-off rate, we have the assessment pass rate and assessment scores, we have the employee performance post-training. How do all of this work for you as a L&D, as an L&D specialist or as HR professional? Now, by the time, okay, probably I should move ahead. Let me see, is there anything I need to explain more here? How do you determine training cost? Okay, so let me quickly explain that. How you determine training cost? You know, by the time you are ready to implement your training, if you get an external vendor, they might have charged you for that training, probably the total cost of the training, including logistics, traveling, feeding, all of those things. Probably the training costs 2 million, and you train 30 staff. So how do you determine the training cost per each employee? So it becomes 2 million divided by 30 staff. Don't forget, you have to be careful about the training cost. If possible, have a budget, or including course, data, these are training costs. Anything that goes into that training, they are all training costs for that training. And you know, if you are sending report to regulatory bodies, they will request for the training cost. It's very important. If ISO come into your organization, they will request for training costs. Then the next one you need to know is the training ROI. Okay, I am still going to talk about the training ROI, but it might not be in details today. You know, if you are using the Kirkpatrick training evaluation methodology, and in combination to the Philip ROI, you will discover that after the first level of evaluation, the second level of evaluation, and the third level of evaluation, you move into the fourth level whereby you begin to determine ROI. And when you hear about ROI, they are trying to ask you, how do I put explicitly, what do we gain from training in in monetary value? That is ROI of training. Most organizations don't do it because they don't have the necessary data for it. So today may not really be the best time to talk about ROI. Probably in the next time we meet, we can do training ROI in itself, because it involves calculations and it involves some kind of technical, know-how of how to do it. Okay. Then we have the operational efficiency, we have the learner engagement. Some of you that are using analytics, probably on your LMS, you will be able to see learner engagement from your LMS. And, you could actually use a survey to actually identify it. Then we have the training experience satisfaction. Probably usually deploy this 7 months or 8 months of the year. you will deploy what refers to an ISS, whereby they measure the confidence level of your staff and their satisfaction to your staff. And you could also look at every other training intervention and ask them to rate it, especially their satisfaction level or their confidence level. ISO requests for some of this. Then we have the course enrollment data, especially some of you that are using LMS. You have to know how many of them have enrolled. Probably you enroll some of them, and how many of them have accepted it, and how many of them self-enroll themselves. You can have that kind of data. Okay, so you look at it on the LMS. Then we have the course completion on the LMS. How many started, who is ongoing, who has completed. You will see it on your LMS. These are metrics for what you are doing. Then we have the learner drop-off rate. Some people started, they didn't finish it. Why you for 2 days or 3 days training, you invited some staff. They actually meet up for the first day. They didn't come again in the other days. Then we have the assessment pass rate and assessment score, especially if you are doing the pre-assessment and the post-assessment. Then we have the employee performance post-training, and this is where you come up with core metrics. And each matrix will be different from each functions and for each task. For example, if it is for the marketing team, you might want to come up with a matrix that has to do with sales volume. Okay, look at customer acquisition and retention, or the churn rate. You might look at the number of products sold. So you could look at all of this, because by the time you are sending out your survey, or by the time you are getting performance appraiser from the performance management, you'll be able to know employee performance post-training. And let me quickly even break it down. For example, a particular doctor has been in the organization, and most of the time, you have lost 2 to 3 patients by mistakes. Due to the mistake or error of the doctor, actually led to the death of patients. So how do you know that your training works for the doctor? Is for you to look at what happened after 6 months. So if last year, at the end of 6 months, error has led to the death of 3 patients, then you have to look at it this year. At the end of 6 months, how many patients have died due to error from this doctor? So these are employee performance post-training. You can look into that, and but don't worry, because there are some other things I need to look at. So let's discuss this lens of training. Why do you think training fail? Why does training fail? Why is it that the management will tell you, see, we don't see the effect of your training. We can't see the impact of your training. Why does it happen? Have you ever thought of that? Go to the comment section and tell us why training failed. For me, I think many people don't bother to evaluate their training program, and that is why it failed. They don't bother to do training need analysis, and that's why it failed. As a matter of fact, they don't even know how to measure training effectiveness, because if they do measure something, it's just a short survey given to participants at the end of the class. So there are many reasons why training failed. If you don't do your training analysis effectively, your training is going to fail. If you don't determine training metrics, training inputs, your training is going to fail. If you don't do training evaluation, it's going to fail. And let me quickly tell you this. I can determine if your training is going to fail or not by merely looking at your training need analysis and the process through which you follow to determine that training need analysis. It is not until we are implementing training we determine or we know that training is going to fail. Just like how do we know that a particular staff is not going to do well, or probably they are going to stay on the job, or they are not going to stay on the job? If your recruitment process is flawed, automatically you can't get the best from that staff. So the same thing is with training. If your training need analysis is flawed, you can't get the best from it. So that's the point. So let's look at it. Where do you get your data from? Okay, by the time you want to go embark on training needs or evaluation or metrics, you want to determine their metrics, you could look at this on the learning management system, like I initially explained, and you could do a survey, you could do a focus group, You could do employee performance data. For example, personally, I usually request for a performance appraiser from my team so that we can use it to determine if some of our training are working or they're not working. So it's also help us to determine the training metrics for probably per department or per job functions or per a particular task. It depends. Then we can do interview and we can do training needs analysis, which is very important for us. So there is no way we talk about training analysis and training metrics that will not talk about training evaluation, because that is the great deal for your metrics or for you to determine if this training has value for the organization or for the individual. So the question is, what is training evaluation? Training evaluation is the systematic process of analyzing training programs from the start of the design of a program through determining the program's impact, its value and worth for the time and money invested. Simply put, how do we determine the value of a particular training to organization and also to the individual? That is what training evaluation really want to do. So why is it so important to know if your training program is working? Number two, to develop your credibility. Number three, to improve your training programs. And number four, to meet stakeholders' expectations. And finally, to get funding for vital training programs. And don't forget, your training evaluations is also useful for your training in analysis, because you'll be getting some kind of feedback from it. And your training evaluation will also help you to come up with metrics. So it is also very important you do training, evaluation. Okay, so let's move. How to evaluate a training program in 4 steps. Number one, choose the appropriate model. I'm still going to tell you there are different models. I'm going to tell you about 3, but I'm just going to briefly explain 4. The third one. Okay, number 2, determine indicators of training effectiveness. And another way of saying it is determine the metrics of training effectiveness. Okay. Then number 3, choosing the right method and collecting data. Okay. And the last one is analyzing data. The reason why I'm saying this is there are 1 or 2 things I want to explain that will help us in training analysis and metrics. So this is a common model. We have the Phillips ROI methodology, we have the Brinker success case methodology, and we also have the Kirkpatrick 4 levels evaluation methodology. Like I told you, we find the way to explain the third one because it's popular, and I won't lie to you, is well accepted by most organizations, even industries, and it really helps. Although people are now adding the ROI of Philip into part of these Kirkpatrick 4 levels. So let's quickly look at these 4 levels. Level 1 talks about reactions, and it asks the question, did the learners enjoy the training? It's a metric. Okay. It talks about satisfaction. It talks about reactions. It talks about if they are happy with your training or if they are not. Then it looks into the content. It looks into the facilitator. It looks into the tools make use. Probably it is virtual or physical. What are the tools you use? Are they satisfied with all of them? Are they happy with your training? Do they love your training? Do they say, wow, this is a fantastic training? And let me quickly say this, that a learner enjoy your training doesn't mean that it's impactful. And that is why we have 4 levels. So let's quickly move into the second level that talks about learning. At this level, we are talking about the learning transfer. So the question is, did learning transfer occur? Did learning actually take place? So how do you know? Before you embark on implementing that program, there's what we call the pre-assessment and post-assessment. And most HR professional and L&D miss out on this level 2. They don't do it. Let me ask you, when last did you deploy pre-assessment and post-assessment during training? When last? Did you even remind? Was it this week or last week? A particular vendor was telling me, oh, what do you mean by pre-assessment and post-assessment? I say, and you are coming here to train. You can't train here. You can't train in this place. And thanks to God that we usually do vendor engagement before we embark on training. So you can't. And before we allow you to facilitate training, we will ensure, number 1, you send your content, you send your pre-assessment, and you send your post-assessment 48 hours before the training. We will review it. If it's not okay by us, we send it back to you. Because that's the thing that determines whether learning has occurred. So it may not be really, it's not really a big deal. Anyway, the same content you use for your post-assessment can be used for your pre-assessment. You could determine to do like multiple choice test, or you could do false and true, something like that. It depends, and it could be multi-choice. Okay, so pre and post. And let me quickly explain better. If I come into this class and teach you chemistry, what is chemistry? Chemistry is the study of matters and its environment, or its relation with the environment. So how do I perform level 2 learning evaluation? It's very simple. Before I come into that class, I'm going to send an assessment to you that will ask you define chemistry, define matter. I can also ask you what are the relationship between matter and its environment. I don't expect you to get all the answers. That is why it is called pre-assessment or pre-test. Okay. Now, post-test, it means that training has occurred. I have delivered my training or deployed my training. Now, I need to know whether you have gotten anything from my training. We call it the learning transfer. Have you really learned? And what is the meaning of learning? Learning is change in behavior. How do I know there's a change? I need to ask you again, what is chemistry? What is matter? And explain the relationship between matter and its environment. I have just completed learning the level 2 because I set an exam or I did a test before the training and after the training. So please, if you are not doing that, there's no way Kirkpatrick 4 level can work for you, because the data you want to get from that is part of your metrics. The data you got from reactions, they are metrics. The one you got from your learning, they are metrics. Now let's move to the impact level, which is level 3. The level 3 asks this question: did the training change behavior? And I'm going to give you an example. Suddenly you discover that majority of your staff are coming late to the organization. Then you raise an alarm. Then the next thing is you got an approval for you to do training on probably etiquette, or you do training on time management, or you do training on how to overcome lateness to work. It depends on the kind of training you want to do. Anyway, so by the time you deploy the training, we don't expect the training to start working in the day after day 1, day 2, day 3, or 1 week, 2 weeks. We say that, okay, after 3 months or 6 months, we expect a change of behavior from our staff. And what is that behavior? We need lateness to work to reduce by 80%. That is, if it was 40% before, we want it to be probably 10% or even 5%. So somebody will go and request for timesheet and do an analysis just for him or her to determine if there's a change in behavior. So if at the end of the day, there is a reduction in the lateness to work, then we will say, wow, our training is working. So just the way I use lateness to work as an example, it could be sales. Suddenly you discover there was a drop in sales, probably by 45%. But this time around, somebody recommended that come, let us do this training. And if you can do this training, there's going to be an increase in the number of sales after 6 months. So what do? We deploy the training. Then after 6 months, we come back and measure if there is an improvement in the sales volume. Okay. So if there's an improvement in the sales volume, automatically there's a change in behavior. And don't forget, I told you, you have to fall back to your training objectives. It is from the training objectives you are going to measure your impact level. It is from the training objective you are going to measure the learning level. It is from, okay, yeah, we can also measure the reaction level. So do not joke with the impact level. Okay. Now, the last one is the result. And this one is so, the impact level and the result level is so important to the board. It's so important to the top management because they want to see the reason why they need to invest in your training. So on the result, they will ask this question: did the training influence performance across board? So for us, at the beginning of the year, we have set a performance metrics. We work with the performance team to set performance metric. We don't know the one we use, probably a scorecard. We have already set it up. They want to see, now that you have tied training to the scorecard or to the performance metrics, depends on what you're coming up with. So the question at the end of the year is, did we achieve what we say we want to achieve? Sorry, let me quickly look at time and ensure that I'm still within time. Okay, I think I'm still within time. I am to stop, round up everything by after 1 hour 30. That's by 8:30. So I'm still within time. I hope you all are not asking questions. I'm unable to, I'm sharing my screen, so accessing the chat is a bit technical for me. But don't worry. Let me continue. So that is that about reaction, learning, input, and result. Now, Kirkpatrick, don't forget, the major thing that Kirkpatrick measure is the training effectiveness and the training impact. Is your training effective and is it impactful? Are we getting value from your training? These are core things. And like I told you, probably next time I will be coming, we are going to be doing a major work fully on training evaluation, especially the ROI. It is outside of this what we are doing today. But the reason why I brought it up is because you need metrics from each of these if you are really going to showcase some of your metrics, your training, like a dashboard to the board or anyhow you want to call it. So let's go. Oh, wow, I'm rounding up. So in conclusion, so based on the results of the ROI evaluation, strategic changes can be put in place in order to measure training program effectiveness and fit for purpose. All training professionals should do the following. Number one, after today or immediately now, go back, redesign the current training needs analysis, okay? Don't forget the 3 level: organizational, task or operational task, and employee level. Okay, then number 2, you need to go back and align training to organizational goals. Okay, and finally, you need to find a way to measure the impact of your training. What it means is that find out all the metrics and see whether it's actually working. Don't forget, I have tried to introduce you to the issue of impact of training. Don't worry, I will still find a way to work with Adeosun so that we could actually do that in our next training. We could actually do that in our next training, whereby we go into ROI, we look at the technicality, and if possible, give some materials towards that. I know that day probably can take like 2 hours because it's very, very technical, but by the grace of God, some of us are doing it and we are doing it. Now you can do it too. So I want to say thank you to everyone. And don't forget, once again, my name is Paula Vincent. And I love to network to explore opportunities. I would like us to meet over coffee, probably in your organization. It depends on what we can do together, as long as we are making a lot of difference together in this HR space. So I want to say thank you to everyone that have been listening to me. So I am going to welcome your questions and answer now. So over to you, everyone. Feedback, questions, and answer. The floor is open. The floor is yours now.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Yeah, so I read engineering in school, and I would like to.
Sorry, can you talk louder? I hardly hear you from here.
Hello,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Kevin Williams, I can hear you now.
Yes. Oh, yeah, Kelvin. Yeah. So I'm also an alumni of University of Ibadan. I read
Fantastic.
industrial. Yeah, first and the
Okay.
best.
Okay.
Yeah. I read industrial and production engineering.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm working as an engineer at the moment, but I'm looking forward to crossing into the HR industry. I don't know. How can I get started?
Okay. In L&D or in HR or what?
resources?
Yeah, it's very simple. You have already made your intention known that you want to start. And the best thing you need to do now is probably choose a mentor, or a mentor that can always guide you. Then the next thing is start building capacity. And you could also clarify which do you want to do and be an HR generalist, or do you want to specialize? For me, I am a specialized HR. I am not HR generalist. I focus on OD, performance management, and learning and development. And when you combine all of them together, I am now focusing more on people and culture. So you have to ask that question. Do you want to do all of them, or do you want to be a specialist, HR specialist? Okay. Then don't forget that area of mentorship. Then don't also forget the area of you start building competencies. Join CIPM. Look at what you are doing in HRCI. And let me quickly tell you, I think your story and my story looks the same. I did chemistry undergraduate. I was a chemist by the time I rounded up. And in 2013, I began to make a decision to move fully into HR. And during that time, I began to do courses in HR. I meet with mentors who are already in HR, and they were able to guide me along the way. And I love what I'm doing, and I love HR. I love everything about HR. So it actually helped me to make investment in training and development. So that's it, Kevin Williams. Have I been able to answer your question?
Yes, 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 yes. And I want to ask, can we network like on LinkedIn? Like,
Can you what?
Can we network on LinkedIn? Like for
Yes,
follow-up?
you can. Yes, you can. You can network. And let me quickly say this place, you can drop your, how do I put it? You can drop your LinkedIn profile, profile link in the chat so that people can network with you. Probably I should drop mine in case some of you are planning to do that. Let me drop it. Okay. Any
So
other question?
good evening, sir. There are questions in the comment section, or rather the chat. So you can read
Can
some
you
of
help
them.
me read? Can you help me read, please? Can you help
All
me
right.
read? Thank
Okay,
you.
I'll do that. Okay, so we have a good evening, everyone. So
Good
we have
evening.
a first question that says, can one or two metrics be used to measure training and not all?
Okay, now this is it. This is it. You know, I told you the importance of training analysis and training objectives. As I'm talking to you now, in my own organization, all of this will be ready by the end of December for next year. All of this will be ready. And all of this, by the time we are done with it, we are going to go extra mile to begin to put metrics to each of those training programs. We begin to put metrics. Starting from the training objective, we determine our metrics. And don't forget, our metrics are also tied to the organizational goal. And that is exactly what I've explained to you under the 3 level of the training need analysis. The organizational goal, the task performed, or the operational level, and the individual level. Okay. So if you have done that effectively, sorry, give me a few time. I think I unplug my laptop and it's about to off. So let me quickly plug it. So like I was saying, if you have done that well, so it's very easy for you to determine metrics. For example, you want to look at cost. Some people, it could be cost effectiveness. For example, probably last year you spent 40 million on training, and this year you want to reduce it to 20 million. So that means you are going to be doing 1 or 2 things for you to reduce it. Probably last year, you actually make use of external vendors to facilitate training. And this year, you are looking at the way you are going to develop internal faculties so that you'll be able to reduce costs. Okay, or probably you want to look at other methods for you to train. Job shadowing, job mobility, or KSS within the organization, coaching, mentoring. Where can we invest, or which area can we invest in training that we're going to get the most value? So if you do it very well, you will discover that you can reduce the cost of training from 40 million probably to 20 million. For example, now, one way we can reduce the cost of training is for us to move majority of this training to LMS. So if you can get it done very well, and at the end of the day, it's functioning very well, it's very easy for you to assign training. So any other thing you begin to do with the organization will just be, let us share knowledge, KSS, knowledge sharing or knowledge improvement program. And before you know what is happening, you are transforming the organization and you are not using too much of cost. So if that is what you want to do, it's fine. Why some people will say no, cost is not an issue. We have enough money to do it. We want to start training our employees for the future. So which area do you want to identify? We want to identify digital skills. While we identify digital skills, then instead of we outsourcing some of our digital products to external vendor, we want to start building them internally. I want to ensure high quality, high quantity, precision and precision and quality. Okay. So it depends on the direction of the organization, because whether you like it or not, as HR professional or L&D specialist, these are the area we focus on. Am I communicating to you now? So at the beginning of the training year, you have to have those things documented. And don't forget, this is the period whereby we get busy as probably HR specialists or L&D specialists. This is the time we are always busy. People and culture, they are always busy this time because we have to come up with those training and they have to come up with objectives and they have to tie all of those objectives to the organizational goal in terms of culture, in terms of profit. It depends. Anyway you want to tie it to. Okay. So, and that is why at the end of the training year, for you to not determine your metric will be very easy. You might have had a lot of them, but I won't lie to you. There are some things that your board really want to look at. Number one, they want to look at the area that addresses the competency framework of the organization. You will have to identify them. They might want to look at the issue of the DE, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. How many female staff did you train? How many male staff did you train? How many female staff do you train on digital skills? How many males have you trained on digital skills? They want to look at the cost of your training. Did you save? Did you do anything? And they want you to be able to tie cost into ROI. Okay, then if you cannot get to the level of ROI, you could limit yourself to the level of behavior changes and also performance changes. Am I communicating? Is that clear?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Somebody else is raised. Amsa Wasiri, your hand is raised. Amsa Wasiri.
We still have questions. Okay.
Okay, please go ahead. Let's take this live question. Amsa Wasiri, please go ahead. Hello, Amsa. Okay, please go ahead and read out the questions.
Okay. So we have another question that says, who prepares the yearly training plan, the HR department or the user department?
I don't know what you mean by user department. Now, if your HR teams are specialized, what I mean by specialized team is this: there are value chains of the HR, starting from the recruitment team down to the total reward team, down to the employee services team, down to L&D performance team. There are a lot. All the values, I think we have about 9 value chains now. Now, if you are specialized, so what it means is that your L&D team will be the one to develop your ITP. Okay. Where you are not specialized, whereby you are just the HR generalist, automatically you'll be the one to prepare it. You will combine the function of L&D to what you do, and you prepare it. Have I answered that question? But most of the time, that is given to L&D team to develop. L&D team could work with performance team to develop. And where you have people and culture, you could give them that to do. Thank you.
Hello, Good evening. Sorry, I have a question to ask.
Okay, Amarashi, can you pause? Felicia Osaru, please, over to you.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate this section. I have
You're
two
welcome.
questions to ask. Let me just two in one question. The first one is okay, I'm currently a learning and development officer. I was in a
Okay.
consulting firm, before I moved to my current company, which is an engineering and construction company.
Okay.
So it was when I got to this company, I realized that the L&D we do in consulting firm is quite different from the one they do in the corporate entity.
Okay.
So please, I want you to throw more light as to the difference between these two, because I noticed when I was in the consulting firm, we don't do training need analysis, because we
Okay.
do the training for them, but here I think they do. And secondly, how do we encourage our bosses to take up their training courses? Like the company I currently work is a Portuguese company where we have a SAP success factor. I saw that my HR manager is here to do most of our courses. So how do we encourage them? Because they keep saying they don't have time, they're busy. How do we encourage them to take all these leadership training and courses? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Felicia. I think we have the same background. I moved from consulting to where I am right now. However, before I move, we have actually been doing training plan. As a matter of fact, I am the one that did training plan for the internal staff. And at a particular stage, I think First Bank, we work with them on IDP. They developed some kind of IDP, something like that. And this is the point I'm trying to make. See, if you follow the process I've just given to you for your ITP, it should be very easier for you. And I'm going to drop some documents to Adeoshun so that it could send to us that contain an ITP, like a framework that you can use, something for even your training and analysis that you can actually use. So Felicia, if you have a consulting background, the only thing you might start doing is the training need analysis, which you have not been doing before. I know that other things you have been doing, like development of program and designing and also implementation, I am aware that you have been doing that. I'm not also aware, probably you have been doing training evaluation. Okay, if you have not been doing that, probably you might need to, if this training is not sufficient, probably you should try to take little courses from there. But if this training is sufficient, all you need from us is to give you some materials that you can leverage on and start producing them. Then let me answer the second questions. I won't lie to you. Most of the time, HR punishes other staff for not taking courses. Why they don't take it? Especially even the L&D, they don't usually take courses. So it takes discipline and culture. And for you to drive that, it has to be from the top. You have to drive it from the top. Are you getting me now? So
Yes.
what it means is you need to, when we talk about, you need to come up with training strategies that will make them to start taking courses. And I will give you some. Number one, you can do micro learning, a course that will not be more than 4 minutes. It could be a snippet. You could do a snippet and send it backward and say, oh, do you say this? Do you know that you can say this in this course? Then you put a link that will make them to go there. Okay. Then you could just come up with a knowledge sharing session, whereby probably every Friday, every Monday, or every 2 weeks on Mondays, you just come up with a knowledge that is not more than 30 minutes. And you can invite somebody, or you can use your internal faculties, and you could also ensure that those leaders, they are the people you are using for knowledge sharing. By the time you are doing that, you are building the culture of learning. Yeah, thank you, Adeola. He said learning you get. You are building the culture of learning, and before you know what is happening, you begin to embrace learning. And I'll give you an example. In my present work, when I joined, we discovered that in our knowledge sharing, that is the information I got, there were just 500 out of so many staff that we have, thousands. 500. So by the time I joined, then okay, as I sat down and look at how do we increase these numbers. So I begin to do, for example, just like the way people do publicity for programs, Probably want to do something program. You do publicity. Then I began to do publicity for all of the courses we want to roll out. Publicity, serious one. Design, we do some kind of new, so many things. And before you know this happening, as we speak right now, majority of our staff member have started joining our KSS sessions. So you have to ensure that you create strategy for every training initiatives. It is just like marketing. You market your, let me just make it, you market your training programs until they begin to buy it. However, you know, there's the last one, which is sanctions. You can sanction them. And as an either HR can do that. So you send an email that show the sanction metrics for anybody that is not doing training. And you can do first escalation, second escalation, third escalations. You can even tell them you can list or dismiss her. So everybody will sit tight. So if you have approached them with other area and they are not complying, then use sanctions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Vincent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, this is Vokione. I don't know if I can go ahead with my question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Sir.
Good evening.
Okay, so recently we wrote to all departments to kindly give their training needs or tell their training needs and the identified skill gaps they intend to cover for the year 2024.
Mhm.
So it went into the organization and almost all departments submitted their training needs or the identified skill gaps.
Okay.
Yeah, should that not form your training plan at the end of the day? Or how best do you work with that document to
Okay.
now give you, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, once you have training need analysis be sent to you, I really congratulate you. That means you're working, because it's not usually easy with most organizations. That means it's really working. Okay, so the next thing you do now is analyze all those things and put it in a document that will do a summary of everything you have gotten from them. Okay. You don't forget organizational goal. Don't forget operational or task level. Don't forget the required skills and knowledge, and don't forget the training that you are thinking you want to deploy. Okay. Now the next thing you do is go and look at their training histories. Have they done the training before? Is it the same skills issue they are still having? If it's still the same skills issue they are having, there is a possibility that it might not be training that will solve that problem. So what do? It will move us to the next one, which is stakeholder engagement. So engagement means that, okay, we have seen your training in analysis, we have gone into your training history, or we have even collected performance appraisal and the recommendation from managers or supervisors in terms of training. We have looked into it, we have analyzed it. Now we discover that based on the training needs or training history that we have, it's like it's a repetition. Then there's a problem. There could be possibility that training will not solve that problem they identify. So what do? You move into stakeholders engagement. What does it mean? It means there's going to be a meeting, official meeting. You send an invite to them. Sorry, there's going to be a meeting whereby we discuss X, Y, and Z. So once they come, show them your document, show them your training histories, show them your last training evaluation or impact analysis, then discuss that this is what you are thinking. So by the time you facilitate that session, it's going to give you a way forward. Am I communicating? So any agreement you have in that stakeholders engagement will determine the course of actions. If they insisted that they don't think, probably it could be because of turnover, there are new staff, and they insisted that, oh, that's what we need, then you go ahead and deploy. Don't forget, learners are the center of L&D now. Learners are the center of L&D. Everything we are doing is because of them. If they insist that's what they need, then go ahead. But if you are able to convince them, in fact, it's not your job to convince them. It is your job to just show them why they make that decisions. If the outcome of that stakeholder engagement will determine what your next course of actions. they will tell you, let's do this or let's do that. Thank you so much, Ovoke. Did I answer your question?
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, you did. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Fola. Please, I just want to read again the question from someone, Rotimi Olaita, that I believe we may have skipped, which I think if you could help us look at. He says, what are the best ways to change the mindsets of employees in organization towards learning, despite a huge training budget and very robust training programs for the employees?
Okay, thank you. Number one is, in every organization, there is usually referred to as L&D sponsors. Do they see it as a concern? And who are your L&D sponsors? They are probably the CEO or the board. And don't forget, every L&D solutions, the impact and evaluation go back to them. If they are not requesting for any other HR thing, this L&D usually go to them. Are you getting me now? So when they see the report, what are they saying? So if you have a buy-in from them, if you can engage them and let them know this, the urgency, in fact, you have to build a business case for it so that they can drive it from the top. Okay, they will drive it from the top, and it involves communication. Changing mindset within an organization involves communication. So you also have to go and look at your communication channel. Are you communicating effectively what training can do in the organization? How are you communicating the training programs to them? Okay, it's very important. So it's not as usual, because there's no point investing in training and people are not going for training. It means probably there is something wrong with your communication channel. And when you talk about communication channel, is for you to be able to look to come up with a how do I put it now? A learning objectives that will talk more about the training and that will showcase the value of the training to the organization. For example, you can let them know that if they do this training, it will increase their performance, whereby probably they will begin to meet their target, or there will be increment in team enhancement in team bonding, or it depends on the objective of that training. So you need to communicate it effectively. You must be a good communicator. I may communicate either via email or via video or anywhere. You must be a very good communicator. Okay. Now, if you are communicating effectively, then the next thing you need to do is to have what we refer to as ongoing stakeholder engagement. Don't keep quiet. Management by preaching. Keep engaging the leaders. Keep engaging the managers. Keep engaging. So they will be the one to take ownership. Once you engage them, they begin to take ownership. Then don't forget, if the board, as they are really your sponsor and they want everybody to take responsibility, they can attach learning into there. For example, in my organization now, one of your key appraiser is learning. So if it's not happening in your organization, automatically they won't take you serious. Do you know that if you don't come for learning in our organization, it will cost you promotion? It's already in the communication. We tell them the consequences of not taking training seriously. It will cost your productivity bonus. It will cost your promotion. We put it there. And there are some training we let them know that if they don't take it, if it leads to organization financial loss, we tell them there's going to be a consequence, which is firing. We fire you. So these are things that should be in your communication. But the only people that could, drive it are those leaders. So if they take responsibility, then it will flow. So the question is, how do you get leaders to drive learning? You engage them. Ongoing stakeholder engagement. Ongoing stakeholder engagement. That's the key to all of those ones. Then don't forget, the bottom line is about communication, effective communication. Thank you so much. I hope I've answered your question. Hello, Toshiko?
Yes. Thank you very much. I see Hamza Waziri's hand is up. Maybe we'll take our question for
so I don't
his
understand.
question.
Waziri, put your hands down now. That end has been up, sis.
Okay, I think we can help put it down. Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Oliemi is on the call. Please, okay. Maybe we can.
I think we can now close.
I'm trying
right?
to look for him. Yes, yes. Thank you so very much. I think in the absence of Mr. Oliemi, I will take the opportunity to thank you for a great job done, for the time and the wonderful knowledge shared with colleagues. Personally, I learned so much being an L&D person as well. I definitely sent you a message on WhatsApp, on LinkedIn. I would like to engage more and learn more from you. Thank you so very much for your efforts. I wish you a very good night's rest. And thank you everyone for joining. On behalf of our mentor, Mr. Oliemi, I want to say thank you everyone, those join now and those that will watch later. Have a good night, everyone.
So I want to say thank you for I think Oliemi wants to join. I don't know. I just accepted him now. So I want to say thank you to everyone on this call. Don't forget, like Oliemi usually say, you shouldn't have to walk alone. Please, if you are struggling, which I know most L&D or HR professionals struggle, please, there's no point for you to struggle. Reach out and let's see how we can do, if possible. Train your HR team, your L&D team. Let's do a physical session, and we are not going to break your bank. So I want to say thank you for everyone. Mr. Adeosun, I know you are back. Do you want to say one or two things, or should we just end it?
I'd just like to say thank you so much, Mr. Fola Vincent.
You're welcome.
This has been exclusive, as usual, highly informative, educative. I would also like to thank the over 80 people who joined this Zoom session tonight. Thank you for your commitment to learning and to leadership. We appreciate you, and we look forward to the next training program you have committed to. We will agree date and time as soon as possible, maybe early next year.
Thank you.
All right.
So
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Stop recording, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Help to end the meeting for all. I'm no longer.
Okay, no problem. I'm going to stop now. Yes. Are you sure you want to? Yes.